All right, thank you all for being here. Start on a sad note, as you all have heard by now. Want to send my condolences to Dale Wolfley's family. I heard about his passing late yesterday, and my first reaction was, "You sure?" When you think of somebody that's kind of has a personality that Wolf did, and kind of a bigger than life personality, you just don't think about those people passing, and so still probably in a little bit of shock there. No bigger supporter of West Virginia football than Dale Wolfley, and it helped me a lot when I first got here, connecting with former players and really kind of got our 1891 club off the ground with Coleman, and got some people back involved in the program that hadn't been involved in a long time, and he was the link. He was the link between a lot of the former players and the current team, and even guys before he played. He had built really good relationships with those guys, and then I think that through the years, he did a really good job of getting guys back here. Whether it was Josiewiak's golf tournament or some alumni functions around our spring game, he was always the guy that really engaged former players and got them back around the program, and he'll be missed. And his son Stone played for us, so communicated with him earlier today. So just really feeling for that whole family, and so I know he always talked about the brotherhood of West Virginia football players, former players, and I know that entire brotherhood is really hurting today. So just want to start with that. I promised you all I'd talk about our development guys during kind of a semi-open week. These are the guys I think that really took advantage of it, and start kind of with defense. Asani Redwood and Hammond Russell both played, but I think their future is really bright. And I thought both of them, we scrimmaged on Wednesday, we scrimmaged on Friday, and we scrimmaged on Saturday. And I thought that those two guys really took advantage of those reps, and kind of excited about their growth. And Asani had major knee surgery in March, and so to come back, and he's played in every game since Pitt. Man, that's really remarkable on that time frame. The other guys, DJ Oliver, really had a nice 3 days there. Really showed some signs on special teams. I think he'll be able to help us even this year on some special teams. Johnny Williams continues to grow and mature. I forget sometimes because he's here in the spring that this is his true freshman year, and I think he's got all the makings to be a really good one. Corey McIntyre is another one that's as he continues to change his body. He's made a bunch of plays in our scrimmages, and I thought Jordan and Josiah Jackson, both of those guys, had nice open weeks. So those are some of the guys. I know I promised you on last Monday I'd talk about that. Kind of transition to our game on Thursday versus Houston. I think it's a great opportunity for our program. Play on Thursday night. Some of you guys know the milestone wins better than I do that this program has experienced in midweek games. A lot of significant wins, and we had two really good wins last year, and played well, and the third one just didn't get it done at the end. I thought we used the open week probably differently than we've done in the past, just because of the physical nature of 4 out of the 5 games we've played. We really only practiced our guys Wednesday, and then got into Houston prep on Friday. But our guys will be ready to go. They got some rest, recovery, and they'll be ready to go. I know a lot is going to be made about West Virginia playing Dana, and I get it. And I think what doesn't get talked about, Dana did a good job here, and I'm reminded because every day I drive into this parking lot, I see a picture of him in the Orange Bowl team, and so I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. Did a really good job, and so, but I think the story, Dana and his staff, not just Dana but his staff also, but the storyline, Malachi Ruffin's really the only player that played under the previous staff. I think we got 3 guys that were recruited by the previous staff. And then they have 4 of our former players. And I think I talked about this last week maybe is Mike O and Tony Mathis did everything we asked them to do, made solid contributions. They graduated, did a good job on and off the field here. So I get, and wish them the best, and then Guzman wanted a different role, and then Sam's playing at an extremely high level, and we knew when we recruited him he was going to be a really talented player, and really I probably just didn't do a very good job handling him. The room that he came into probably didn't help him either, and sometimes change of scenery it works, and it's worked for him, and so I'm happy for him. I think he's one of the leading receivers in the Big 12. Hope he continues to have a great year, just not on Thursday night, and so, but not any ill will toward any of those guys. But the game will have some emotions to it. We know that. We're preparing our guys for that. Just to talk about Houston here, special teams wise, I think the first thing that really sticks out to you on their special teams, they're playing really, really hard, and they got a couple of core guys. One of them is a guy that we recruited out. Willis kid, he's playing lights out on special teams. I mean, he's a core player. Their kicker I know really well. He's from Dothan. Dothan's right down the road from Troy. We recruited him. He went to Troy. He was really good in high school. He went to Alabama. Now at Houston's doing a nice job. And their punter's really good. He's a guy that can move it around. He's Australian. The biggest threat on special teams to me is their kickoff return. Golden, who I'll talk about here in a second, they've already returned one. They returned one for a touchdown versus TCU. They've had a couple other big returns. Schematically, they do a nice job, but Golden's electric. And so it's going to be a huge challenge for us to get down and cover. And so if you look at them on offense, I think they're balanced. Dana's got a long history of playing good offense. To me, it all starts with the quarterback, Donovan Smith. He's from Texas Tech. He's won a lot of big games. If you look at it, going back when he was at Texas Tech, and really if you go back to 21 and in 22, he started multitude of games, played well. The thing that sticks out to me, he's a coach's son, so he's really smart too. I mean, you can see that on his decision making, but he's big. He's really big. He's a strong runner. They use him to run some, and he's got a big arm. And he's a guy that I think is really talented and can run and pass and hurt you in both of those. And then they're really talented at skill. I think that at running back and receiver, as talented as anybody in our league. Talked about Sam and the Golden kid. Manjack's played really well. I mean, they go deep, and those guys can run, and they're vertical threats, and they'll take shots downfield with them, and it's going to be a huge challenge for us defensively. If you look at them defensively, they mix up the fronts. I think their D-line is very good. Their D tackles remind me a lot of Texas Tech, and Texas Tech's guys have given us trouble in the past. They're big, maybe not as tall as some, but man, they're big. All of them are 300 plus. They're active with their hands. They do a really good job of playing their gaps and playing the run. And then at defensive end, they got 2 guys that can really rush the passer. The transfer from Oklahoma, played linebacker at Oklahoma. Now he's on the edge. And that's really been a good move for him. He'll have a chance to play in the NFL doing that. And the Caesar kid has been really productive. He's got great speed off the edge. And then they got 2 talented corners that can play man, and that's given us some issues. So, but a team that we've got a lot of respect for. I think they're dangerous. If you look at the first 2 halves of the Big 12 games, they've played extremely well. And we know we're going to get their best. It's a group that's their backs against the wall, and I know they're looking forward to it on Thursday night, and so are we. And so, with that, I'll take questions.
Injuries for you guys.
So Wyatt will know. He'll kind of be a game time. Tomas will not play this week. As far as how long he'll be out, I'm not sure yet. He'll be able to return, but he won't play this week. And then Aubrey, I think, still questionable. And those would be the main ones. Anybody else?
For the most part, so how do you rotate?
Obviously, Trey's out. I said that the other day.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Ben, start with linebacker.
Yeah,
Ben
so Ben
starts, but who
So Ben Cutter will start, and he's earned that right opportunity, and he was playing a lot before. And I'm really excited about his growth. We've got, Lee's kind of the leader in that room, but we've got several young guys not just we've got Ben, Trotter sitting out due to injury. We got a couple in this recruiting class that's committed, so I think the future of that position is really bright. Trey's going to return; he'll be full strength. You saw what he could do, through the first 5 games. Him getting all the starts and playing a lot of reps. So I think the future of that position is bright. So I think you'll see Jai Favres. He'll go in and play. We've been using him a little bit in some dime package stuff, but he'll play some more on defense. Caden Beiser will be the next guy up too.
Hopefully Aubrey can go, but
safety. Yeah, so we've got some flexibility back there. Malachi has played and started games at safety. We can use Jacoby in some of our nickel packages. Jacoby Spells, he's played well. He's played multiple series last 3 games. And then after that, we've kind of got Avery Wilcox would be the 4th safety if Aubrey didn't go, and then Josiah Jackson. That's why it was big for him. During the open week to get a lot of reps, and he showed some signs. I think he'll be ready if called upon. Yeah, he's good. Yeah, he's practiced. He practiced from Wednesday on. Open week really kind of occurred at a good place for both those quarterbacks because they were able to get off of it for a while. And but yeah, he's ready to go.
When you started, there was a time when it looked like this game would be promoted as you against Neal and you against Dana. How happy are you that you're in a different spot than that could have been?
I don't know. I think it's I think if it happened sooner, I think that the build up around it probably been bigger. I think whenever Dana comes back here for the first time, that'll probably be a little bit bigger deal. The time heals a lot of things. It's been 5 years. I think it would be probably perceived different if we had a lot of guys that were here in 2018. We just don't. But I think that it's a good storyline. But, I think on our end, that's why I kind of led with this. I think it's important, and I was telling, may have been Monty the other day, because we were just talking about, hey, this is going to be nationally, this will be a theme. There's only a couple games on Thursday night. And I said, well, I think our fan base needs to understand. I pull in and I see his face. They won the Orange Bowl, and I think he won 10 games twice here and did a nice job. So there's no ill will for, I think, for anybody within this building going down there.
Getting 5-1's a better story.
Yeah, I think for us, to me, it's just about us continuing to get better. I mean, and I know that's let's coach speak, whatever, but we're on this winning streak, but we really haven't played a 3-phase game where, we've been handcuffed a little bit offensively. I think going into this week will be the first time that we feel like that we're, depending on who plays on the O-line, but our skill guys, we're at the healthiest we've been from a skill perspective. I think our quarterbacks are continuing to mature, so I think we're on the verge of playing some good offensive football. And then for me, the way I look at it is we're 2-0 in the conference. I think that's the most important thing. We don't talk about 4-1 much. We just talk about 2-0. And the way I talk about it with our team is it's like you're in the NCAA basketball tournament, and every game survive in advance. And so for us, it's about getting better. And this happens to be our Big 12 game this week. So let's figure out a way to get to 3-0.
There was conversations talking with Ben and a few others defensively about trying to start quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Is that even more of an emphasis this week because this is a Dana offense, because of what they're going to bring to the table?
I think it's important. That's just something that, I think when you go into the open week, you always look and say, okay, where can we get better? And obviously we haven't started as quickly as we'd like to. We've been able to overcome some deficits, but you'd rather not have to overcome those. But I think that's just an emphasis program-wide. Regardless of who we're playing, we just got to do a better job of starting the game. We've kind of been waiting to get our feet wet and then, starting to play good defense. We need to get started faster.
Houston's offense, how different is it from when Dana was here? Exact same when you look at it?
I would say, and that's probably a better question for him, but I would say quite a bit different, than what they had with Will, just because Donovan Smith is more of a runner. He can do both. So there's they're calling some Q run plays. They're doing some different things in the read game. A lot of the pass concepts are the same, though. I think that's fair.
Going back to the defense needing to start quicker, only one thing you kind of attribute to the defense getting stronger as the game goes on, especially there in the second half?
I think that you kind of – so offenses in general, you see a lot of new stuff early on, whether it's most teams script their first 8 to 12 plays, something like that. And within that, there's some tendency breakers usually, and there's some new things that are new for that game or that opponent. And so I think once you figure out how somebody's going to play you or what's different or what schematically are they doing that you didn't see on tape, then you make some adjustments and you settle in. I think that's probably as big a factor as anything.
Is it more like scouting a non-conference game as opposed to you play TCU every year?
Yeah, well, there's some there's some familiarity there from an offensive standpoint. Just just because coming from similar trees and things like that, so there's some similarities there. But I think that's fair. I think when you get into a conference, especially where you've been playing everybody, and so unless there's a coaching change or a coordinator change, you basically, you go back and you look at your previous game or your previous couple contests or how it was like when you went and played there last, what was, as simple as what's the visiting locker room, where was the hotel, where, you look at all your notes. And so, yeah, it's very similar to a non-conference game because you don't have that to fall back on, So, and we've got 3 more of these. We got Houston, and then we've got all 3 of the newcomers coming up.
The hardest thing for those newcomers to adjust to when they move to a Power 5? Your thought?
Yeah, this is my thoughts. I haven't lived it. I've made this switch as a coach, but not as an entire program. I think the thing in this league that really sticks out to me is the week to week, and this has turned into a really physical conference, and it's the week to week of it. And we're in a league where you have a chance to win every game, but your opponent's also good enough to beat you every week. And, whether some of the other leagues aren't like that, especially at the G5 level. You've got some where you're just better than the other people, and maybe you can afford not to play at your best. And that's not the case in this league. You can look at some of the matchups early in the season. If you don't play, then, and especially on the road, if you don't play somewhere close to your best, then you're regardless of your record, you have an opportunity to get beat. And so I think that the physical nature of it and just the week in, week out, playing really good people.
Hidden yardage numbers are really good this year. I think TFLs you've improved, penalty yardage, punt returns. Does that impact how the other team prepares for you when you're good in those areas? You can steal yards?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that what we've done is the thing that probably sticks out more than anything when you watch us is our coverage units have been pretty good, minus one big return that Texas Tech had versus us. So I think when other teams are watching us, that's the thing that sticks out. And then we've covered punts well. As far as some of the other stuff, we've been good at reducing. That's kind of been a goal over the last 3 years, is really reducing our TFLs and number of sacks given up. We'll constantly get challenged. We'll get challenged this week on that because their D-line's really good. But when we went back and said, okay, what are some things we got to do better, and kind of who we need to be successful in the future, those were some of the things we talked about. Is we got to reduce negative yardage plays, we got to reduce penalties, and then we got to have a plus. There's always a plus minus there, your coverage units versus their coverage units, and we've been able to do that so far.
If you add them all up, I think you're about plus 50 a game, which is that's half the field.
Yeah, and that's something you got to sustain, right? But yeah, we've done so far so good. I think the challenges in our league, it just continues to build, in such a small margin for error, right? And we probably won the game on special teams. And it's whether you're Coach Coons or anybody that's helping him in special teams, it's tough because a lot of things can go right, a lot of things can go wrong. You look at the Oklahoma-Texas game, right? I mean, you talk about swings and some swing and momentum, swing and emotions. And so we are, I think the fight is to make sure our guys understand the importance, which we spend a lot of time on, and making sure we maintain the attention to detail and doing those things that enable us to get those hidden yardage.
Last thing here on that. When you were a player, were you aware of Beamer ball and how they use that as kind of a theme to get an advantage. I mean, it was a way for them to.
Yeah, psychologically too,
Yeah,
because you went into anytime you played those guys, and I never played them as a player, but I watched is you always worried about getting a kick blocked, and and well, you think about in punt protection, like that affects the snapper, that affects the punter, and there's a lot of things that go into it. Not just even if you don't block the kick, the perception is that you could block any of them. That puts a lot of pressure on that unit. The Big 12, not as much. I've made a point to talk about the national rankings with our guys, just because I think from a strength of schedule standpoint and who we've played and the fact that our only loss is to a top 5 team at their place, I think that and we're still, in the 30s somewhere, so I've pointed that out to them.
Before you, or even during the process of you maybe becoming the West Virginia head coach going back 5 years ago, because you and Dana had some sort of connection prior, and not asking you to get into a personal conversation, but did you make a phone call to him, just ask him what it was like at West Virginia? Did you have any discussions with him about his tenure? Just because coaches sometimes do that before they take a job.
No, I didn't really talk to Dana. I talked to a couple people that were on the staff, but I didn't talk to Dana.
The comment about Sam, it was kind of interesting about how, I forget you said, like, you could have handled it better, whatever. But that sentiment, it's such a different world that many years ago when you think about how you have to handle it. Do you have to be more case specific?
I think going back to it is to kind of elaborate on that. He was really he kind of came on his senior year, like had a good junior year, was really athletic, was a really good basketball player too, and so we're able to sign him, and he came in during that kind of COVID deal and where you couldn't have as much contact with guys, and that was a really hard time for that class. Not just here at West Virginia, but across the country, that class really didn't get to experience a summer, where they kind of are able to get in the routine of being a college student, and so we weren't around them as much. And then, if you think about it, we had a lot of transition during, kind of his year and a half there in that room, and it wasn't a lot of different personalities, some up and down performances, and that was a young group without much veteran kind of leadership in that room. And so, when I look back at it, and I think you always, and I think I've talked about this in this setting before, is anytime you lose a player, especially a talented player, you always kind of look back and say, okay, what could I have done different, And the thing with him is, if he was in that room now, it's a different story. Just because we've got some veterans in there, we can play better in that room, but just the makeup is much better. And we would have done a better job kind of mentoring him and having him come along. But where we got to is, like, it was probably the best at that time. It was the best decision for him and probably the best decision for us. But when he left, I remember telling our staff, I'm like, that kid, he's got a special talent. And if he matures like I think he's capable of, then he's going to be a great player. And here we are, a couple years later, and I can't speak on the maturity. I can just speak on watching him on film, and he's playing at a really high level right now.
Follow up on the developmental guys, a couple others. James Hurd, where's he? Some of your other offensive.
So James unfortunately had a death in the family, so he was able to go on Wednesday, but he missed Friday and Saturday, and he's gaining some weight, and so he made a really nice play in the scrimmage on Wednesday, but he had to go back home for a wake, so he missed Friday and Saturday.
Some of the other offensive linemen besides Johnny, and then defensive linemen guys.
Yeah,
that are
so
sitting too.
yeah, we had a little illness, so a couple of our young guys didn't get to go on Friday or Saturday. But just talking, Bryce Biggs is a kid that walked on here, and he's gotten steadily better, and didn't have his best day on Wednesday, but I thought he bounced back over the weekend and did a nice job. And then Landon Livingston is much improved. And then I think some of our younger tight ends are showing some signs, like T.J. Johnson, Noah Braham. Those guys are doing some good things.
5 games, when you study Houston, what do they do best?
Well, the thing that, I'll answer this, John, is the things that when you turn on the tape and you're like, oh, is the receivers can really run. That is a strength. They're explosive. The quarterback is. I go back to what I said. He's just a big, strong, and he's big and strong. He breaks tackles. I can think of numerous times just watching him at Tech and then also watching him at Houston when people have him wrapped up and he gets out, and sometimes two people on him and he's strong enough to break tackles. And then the fact that he can make all throws, he can run the right and throw it a long distance going back to the left, and so that's when you turn them on and watch them offensively, those are the things that stick out. And then defensively, it's the defensive line, and sometimes when teams make transitions and go from Group of Five to Power Five, but they're not. They have those. They've got a really, really stout Power Five D line, and then Golden on kickoff return. That's scary.
Big plays for you. Before you guys have talked about like play action's really good for shot plays.
Mm-hmm.
You guys run the ball so much and so well that you figure it'd be effective.
We haven't hit as many as we'd like. We actually called quite a few against TCU, but we haven't. You're correct. We have not hit as much. I didn't mean to cut you off. What was the rest of your question?
Just curious because like you are attempting them, so they're there.
Yeah.
It's like you abandoned it. I was gonna say, is that an apt, not critique, but observation? And then how do you get that right? Because you're not going to abandon it, right?
Yeah. So you hope. What you hope is, sometimes hope's not the best strategy, but you keep calling them with the intention is law of average are going to work out. And those plays aren't necessarily high percentage plays anyway, but you need to hit. Our goal is to hit 40. If we can hit 40% of those shot plays, man, then we feel good about it. But we're not close to that number yet. Only way I know about it, and that's what on Wednesday and Friday we spent a lot of time on that. The only way I know about it is the only way I know to get better at it is you continue to work on them. I think a lot of times those happens. Your protection breaks down. Our protection's been really good. We just missed some throws, and we haven't been in the right spot from a receiver standpoint or a tight end perspective. So you keep working them, and you got to keep calling them. Somebody else.
How important as a head coach is it to be able to, I guess, not be put into a box? Because I'm thinking your perception, because of where you came from, was an air raid guy.
Mm-hmm.
But to be able to build this kind of offense where you just chew up clock and power run, how important is it, I guess, not even for yourself to put yourself in the box?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm an air raid guy, so we have to.
Well, I think the most important thing when you're the head coach is win football games. And sometimes you got to put some of your own ego away. Maybe that's probably the best way to put it. Listen, I love to throw the ball as much as anybody. I think if you go back and look at through the years, going back to 2008, we've had a lot of success throwing the football. And so that's probably what my background is first and foremost is in a passing. But we got to get better throwing the football. Okay. And for us to get where we want to go is our passing offense has to improve, and we believe it will. But the strength of our team right now is in our offensive line. And so, the job is to win games. And so, that's what we're doing. We're playing to our strengths right now. We're playing defense at a high level. We're playing special teams at a high level. Now, I'm not naive. We're going to have to score more points to win games, and we need to do that starting on Thursday.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you all.